All right. Hello, everybody. If you haven't met me or we haven't talked on the phone, my name is Savannah, and I'm the administrative director here at Emerald Cove Camps. And I have the privilege of just kind of giving you the rundown for what today looks like. So this is our second mornings on the porch. This is our Is My Camper Ready for Summer Camp edition. So Sara and Jessica will be discussing more. But before I introduce them or pass it over to them, I do want to just mention a couple of things. First and foremost, we do record these webinars so you can have access to them later, or if our friends who weren't able to make it are able to watch it later. We also will have a Q&A portion that will go towards the end. So any questions you may have, go ahead and throw it in the QA portion of the bar down below, and we will get those to Sara and Jessica. But last but not least, like I said, Sara and Jessica are ready to share research and information about the topic, Is My Child Ready for Sleepaway Summer Camp? All right, so without further ado, I will pass it over to the two of them.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Sara Kuljis. I'm Executive Director of Yosemite Summer Camp. And this is
Jessica Peterson. Your kids either have or will know me better as Sprinkles, and I'm the Associate Director of Yosemite Summer Camp.
Good reminder, your kids will know me as Salsa. We all have camp nicknames at YSSC, and it kind of adds to the fun otherworldliness of summer camp. Magic. So this morning, as Savannah mentioned, we're going to be talking through that question that almost every parent I've ever talked to, and that I have asked myself: when is my child ready for a sleepaway summer camp experience? I want to mention, for those of you, if this is your first visit to Mornings on the Porch, we call these monthly gatherings Mornings on the Porch because at camp in the summer, nearly every morning we gather on this porch with the staff, and we pray, maybe have a devotion. We talk through the plans of the day, so everybody's on the same page to help make sure that our campers have their best day ever. And by you joining us in these conversations, we hope to get on the same page, and so that your kids are also prepared for their best time ever. Sprinkles, do you want to start us off this morning?
Yes, I would love to. I have a feeling I'm going to say this every month, but this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So every month I will say, but really this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So just so you know where we're headed this morning, we're going to touch on some common signs of how you know your child might be ready for summer camp. And then we're going to talk through, as parents, how can you be preparing your camper as well as yourself to send your kid away for 2 weeks. And then we'll wrap up with some ways that camp supports your kid while they are here at camp. So let me dive in. How do you know if your child is ready? We have a couple of common signs, although we know that every child is different. And so every child is going to come to camp with different experiences that might prepare them for camp. So if your family perhaps has traveled a lot early on in their lifetime, they have experiences of leaving home, well, then they might be ready right when they're 8 years old. They might be itching to get out of the house. This is also true for birth order. We have a family that has sent all 4 of their kids to camp. This last year was their youngest child's opportunity to go away. And she has watched all 3 of her older brothers go to camp before her. And so I think she was ready at age 6
or 5. She might have been able to run the place.
Yes, truly. So the reality is most kids are ready. Most kids are ready at ages 8 to 10, which is why that is our minimum age requirement for kids, is that is when they have shown that they are ready to go to camp. And here are 4 quick common signs to look out for as you consider if your child is ready for camp. So the first is, are they asking questions about camp? Are they excited? Do they have friends that they've heard about camp? Are they asking about the schedule, what they might eat, what they might experience? If they're asking questions about camp and they're demonstrating an interest in camp, that really shows us that they're psychologically and emotionally ready to be considering going away to summer camp. Another common sign is if they've had success in a sleepover. And not all of our campers have had a sleepover before they go to camp. Actually, we're going to link a video later that talks about an 8-year-old who went away without ever having a sleepover. But if they have, even if it's at a relative's house and they were successful, then that really shows you that they're ready to take that next step of independence. Another common sign is if they can manage a reasonable amount of their own personal hygiene. Now, we're not saying that your 8-year-old child might be ready to take a shower and wash their hair and wash their body on their own accord every day. But what we are saying is when asked to dress themselves, when asked to put on sunscreen, when asked to brush their hair, they would know how to do that. They might not comb it to our expectation or match fully, but if they are dressed, then they are good to go at camp. And then the last common sign is really if they like to be active. You know, camp is well-paced. We take pride and put a lot of effort in programming in a way that is well-paced. They've got downtime, there's nap times. That is a coveted time of the day, even for our high schoolers. And so they've got lots of reasonable things like reasonable bedtimes to help them be set up for success. But we are active. And so if they are ready to be active for chunks of time, 3 to 4 hours at a time, that's not sprinting, but it is walking from place to place and engaging in activity, then that might show that they're ready for an experience at camp. So those are a few measuring tools to begin to assess their readiness. Sara, why don't you talk about some of what our parents can be doing?
Sure. Along with what your child might be presenting already as far as readiness, we as parents have a big influence on helping them be more ready, or kind of enhancing some of those taking care of myself skills. So if you're considering summer camp this summer, or if you're already registered, know that you still have several months to go, whether they're attending in June or maybe they're attending in August. So some of those things might be to help equip your child with a little more knowledge about the program. I love when I hear that a parent had sat down with their child and gone through the website and really let the child explore. Oh, I didn't know they did that activity and that activity. Oh, I really do want to hold a salamander.
Yes.
And oh, I really do want to climb to the top of the pamper pole and ring the bell. The more knowledge and understanding and even reasonable expectations that a child will have, it will give them more confidence. I'd encourage you to watch videos of camp, talk to friends who've been there before. We've even had the great privilege of a family calling and asking one of us as directors to chat directly with a camper who might just need a little more reassurance, like, what kind of food do you serve? Those are really sweet conversations. We love them. So really, enjoy meeting your own child's desire to get more information and understand more what they're getting into, answering their own questions. It is always a fun practice to help your child have their first sleepover, or maybe their first sleepover with a non-family member. And you can host one at your house first and then have them try with a friend. I would encourage you, as you launch them out for their sleepover, to ask them, well, what should we pack for you to take on the sleepover? And hopefully they can name, well, my pajamas and my toothbrush. And, if there's a game they want to share with their pal that they're spending the night with, kind of giving them the opportunity to think through, what's this going to be like? What do I need? What am I responsible for? And you know what? If they struggle through that sleepover, that's okay. That's why we practice. It doesn't mean that they can't, or that they're not ready for a resident camp experience, but it's great practice. And again, as Jessica mentioned, many of our campers come to camp having never had a sleepover. So it's it is a great experience either way. Some other ways that we can help as parents, our children be more ready for camp, is to allow them to try a new activity and navigate it independently. Maybe they want to join a new club at school, or maybe they want to make a friend at the park, or maybe they want to try to make their own pancakes. I mean, always we want safety, of course, but just allowing them to try something on their own without us like preparing the way fully for them. And then perhaps the most important part is to debrief the experience with them afterwards. How was that? Were you excited? Were you anxious? How did it feel when you were successful? What were some of the things that you did that helped you make that new friend? And just that conversation can remind them that they are capable and they can do new things and have new adventures, even if you're not right next to them holding their hand. Making new friends is one of the biggest gifts of camp. Many of our campers do come to camp with a friend or a sibling, but about 25% come on their own. And so practicing making a new friend is a great life skill to expose them to. Now, you might not have an opportunity to make a new friend because they know everybody in the neighborhood and they go to school with familiar friends, but you can role play. What's it like to introduce yourself? Hi, my name is Lauren. And then what's one question you could ask that new friend? Do you want to play cards with me? Or it looks like, you play soccer too. Where do you play soccer? Just those little life skills to help a child know I can introduce myself and I can get to know someone else. Another role play that we find is helpful for brand new young campers, and actually maybe even more so for those who are older coming to camp for the first time, like that 12, 13, 14-year-old age, is role playing how to ask their counselor for help and role playing how to tell their counselor how they're feeling. Sometimes we're embarrassed to say, I actually don't know where that building is. Can you tell me? Or we're embarrassed to say, I actually can't find my shoes. The cabin's a little messy right now and I can't find my other shoe. Will you help me? Or, hey, I'm feeling sad today because I'm missing home. So by practicing with a camper, a new camper or a returning camper, practicing how do I ask a grown-up for help and support? It's a really, really significant skill. So I would encourage that. I think the last thing I would mention now, and we'll revisit this in one of our later mornings on the porch, maybe in May. And that is as camp is coming along and you're preparing your child to go in a week or so, is please invite them to help pack. When they are looking at the what to bring list, checking it off, and when they're choosing the clothes they're going to take, they'll actually remember more what they brought and they tend to lose fewer things, which is really helpful. They can help with a Sharpie or a labeler, put their name on the tags of their clothes. They can decide which kind of toothpaste to take. And as they're putting it in the bag, then they know where the tops are here and the pants are here. And they will have more ownership about what is in their luggage. Believe it or not, that helps a child be more confident when they arrive at camp and unzip that duffel bag in their cabin. They know what's in there and they'll unpack in their little drawer and they will know my name's on my clothes. I know what I have. I know what I can choose to wear. So that's just a confidence builder. And I think a great way to set kids up for that sleepaway experience.
A great way to make sure they come home with what they brought.
That's really helpful too. That's really, really helpful too. And I just want to reassure you, most kids have a fabulous time at camp. In fact, just even last summer, well over 90% of our campers said it was true or very true that they had fun at camp. And even a higher percentage said it was true or very true that they felt cared for and well supported by their counselor. So campers come, it will be a big experience. But I think you can trust they're going to do well. Yeah. Savannah or Sprinkles, Jessica mentioned a few minutes ago, a video. And if you haven't watched our camp video, I would encourage you to do so. And even with your camper, this video was inspired by a letter written by a mom who had welcomed her 8-year-old home from camp the day before. And she was so taken by the growth that she had seen in this little guy that she wrote a really endearing letter. We asked her if we could use it as the backdrop to a video. And so Savannah will drop that in the chat. It's less than 3 minutes long. I hope you view it after we're done here this morning. So let's see. I think it would be good right now to mention that as we are wondering if our campers are ready for camp, and I'm speaking from my own experience, going to get vulnerable. Sometimes we need to check if we're ready for our camper to go to camp. And that is a really, really normal concern of a parent if we've never done that before. So I just want to talk about that briefly. Sometimes our kiddo is more ready than we are. And we want to be thoughtful about not laying our worries on top of our camper so that they're worried about us as they're heading off to have their adventure. And so just be thoughtful about that. What am I as a mom worried about? Can I let that go? For example, my 8-year-old, 10-year-old, even my 14-year-old may not match like I usually like them to match clothing wise. And I may see some pictures posted as we post daily that I would be like, I'd never have chosen that outfit. Or it looks like they borrowed clothes from someone else. That's okay. They are clothed, they are safe. And I might need to give that up. I might need to give up that beautiful hair combing. I might need to give up the fact that they didn't eat their entire salad, but just part of their salad from their plate. And so for 2 weeks, I am going to surrender some of my high expectations. That actually was a little bit hard for me. I remember dropping my son off at a brand new camp. He knew nobody. We had grown to trust the program and the staff there. And I went home biting my nails just a little bit. And being a 10-year-old boy, 9-year-old boy at the time, he did not write home. And but I could tell by his smile in the photos that they posted that my son was doing great. I had the same feeling when I dropped the same boy off at college. He didn't have any friends there. He went all alone. And while he was 6'5", I still had that grip of my heart that said, can he do it? Will he do it? And he was prepared and he navigated that. I had to check my worries at the door so I didn't lay them on top of his. For those of you who might be wrestling with, but I really struggle when my child might be having a hard time, I'd like to share with you this awesome book. It's called Homesick and Happy, and it's by renowned child psychologist, Dr. Michael Thompson. The tagline is this: time away from parents can help children grow. Dr. Thompson is a big fan, a big champion of sleepaway camp experiences. And he's done a lot of research, and throughout this book, he talks about that, that the gift of camp, the adventure, the skill building, the new friends, being tech-free, growing more confident in nature, singing around the campfire, the traditions, that milestone experience, that the gifts of those things far outweigh the times when a child is going to be uncomfortable or when she's going to be a little homesick. Most campers are a little homesick. Most staff are a little homesick for a bit. We find that within 2 to 3 days, that homesick dissipates and they belong and they are connected well to their cabin family and they know what they're doing and they know where to go. But navigating and tolerating and moving through those awkward or uncomfortable or homesick feelings is part of the experience. So from one parent to another, the goal is not no homesickness or never homesickness. The goal is when I miss home, I will lean on my cabin mates and my nurturing counselor, and I will move through it. And so when it passes, I can be really proud of myself and more bold and more confident and more mature because I did that. And if you have listened to our this and our last morning on the porch, you'll know I love research and I love surveys and all those kinds of things. And so I often will share details from last summer. And for last summer's kids, over 60% said it was true or very true that they'd gained independence at camp. And well over 70% said it was true or very true that they gained courage and confidence. That's what we want to provide to our camp families. So, so just know, if you're aching as a parent a little bit, a little worried, you're not alone. Please join the party with us. And I'd actually like Sprinkles now to share some of the ways we will be attending to your camper in that space, and to you when we're at camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love Dr. Thompson's research, and I'm going to pull a little bit of research from that too. The norm is that our campers will experience homesickness. He says that through research that about 97% of kids experience homesickness. That means most kids. And so what I love is that gives us the opportunity to, instead of thinking about what if my child gets homesick, to change our mindset to say, when my child gets homesickness, experiences homesickness, misses home, here's how we can support them. So camp has a lot of different ways. Like I said, if 97% of our kids experience homesickness, then you better believe that we have developed some sincere strategies around supporting your kiddos. So by and large, like Sara already said, most of the homesickness resolves itself within 2 to 3 days. About 81% of kids experience it lifting after just 2 to 3 days. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that small percentage of when that continues on, but I want us to just keep in mind it's a small percentage, and we've developed a lot of strategy around that small percentage, but likely your child might not even fall into this percentage. But let me talk about it if they do. So we program our program very specifically in the first few days. There's a lot of research around when homesickness tends to commonly peak. And so you can believe that we minimize a lot of those experiences, those first few days, so that they can start to gain confidence of being in a new place and feeling really familiar. So times like downtime, when they start to ask the question, what do I do? And that could stir some anxiousness. We really don't have a lot of free time, unstructured time. Now we have nap time, we have time for them to rest, but there's structure to it, and they're with their counselor and they're with their cabin just to continue to set them up for success. So what happens if by the mid to end of the week, we're noticing that some homesickness is still persistent? Well, we're going to call you. We're going to call you because we are a team. And that's one of the things that we love about being a smaller camp. We could not do that if we had thousands of kids. That would be wild. But we can, because we have smaller numbers. And so we call a parent at that end of the week if their child's symptoms are still really persisting. And we will get a game plan going. What makes your camper feel soothed at home? Can we replicate some of those things at camp? We might coach you on some words and language you can use in a letter to that kiddo, so that they can receive a letter from you and they can feel bolstered and encouraged by it. We might tell them that you can see them in pictures that we post, and some kids will develop a little code with their family. If I'm giving you a thumbs up, that means I'm having a good day, and that makes them feel connected to you. So as you can hear, we have lots of different strategies as to how to set up your child well. I want to tell 2 quick stories, and then we'll go to question and answers. But we have our fair share of experiences with kiddos who battle homesickness. And so I actually want to tell 2 stories. And I realized as I was thinking about these 2 kiddos that came to mind, they have the same first name. So I'm going to tell you the story of Jackie's. And so Jackie came to us in 2021, was her first year. And she arrived at camp. She was 8. She was very young. And she arrived to camp with this eccentric hat on. And we didn't know what to make of it, but she loved it. And so she wore it. Camp is a great place to wear very eccentric things. And so we quickly realized that she was experiencing some disconnection with her family. And so we coached her, and her counselor was on it, loving on her well. Those counselors of our youngest cabins are just, little mommies and daddies to these kiddos. And so, but after a few days, we realized, some of our built-in strategies, we're still leaving some room to be desired. And so, we started implementing some of our handy specific strategies. And so by that, Thursday or so, she was still really exhibiting some homesickness. And so we got on the phone and we talked with Mom. Well, we learned that is her comfort hat. That makes her feel comfortable. And we learned some of her home strategies of how to reduce some of her anxiety. And we coached her on writing letters. Well, it was such a joy and a meaningful experience for her. That next day, it was that Friday, it was during a speaker time. She turned to her counselor all of a sudden, just said, "I'm ready to stay for the rest of the weeks." I'm ready to stay. It just dawned. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's a flip of a switch where that kiddo is ready. And it's just taken those 5 days of effort. And she went home with so much confidence. And I just want to read a quick quote from her mom, who reflected actually on her second year when she had to come back without her brother. So second year, she's battled homesickness. She's been confident, but she came back without her brother. And her mom said, even though this was her second year, she still struggled with the thought of being away for 2 weeks. As she boarded the bus to leave, crying, that does happen sometimes, I feared I might have made a mistake sending her alone. Well, after a few days, I got a letter in the mail saying that she is having the best time ever. Her counselor, Dandy, was absolutely amazing in helping recognize and work through her homesickness. My daughter wrote to me saying that after the first night, it was not really an issue anymore. There's lots more to that quote, but I love how we've seen her grow over the last 2 years to be able to the expectation is not that she wouldn't feel it, but that she would have the tools to work through it. And the last story is quick, and it's really a story, and it comes with an opportunity for me to make a request of you as parents to partner with us. And so the second story is also about Jackie, and she got a few days into camp, and she demonstrated some homesickness, but she'd been talking through with her counselor. And about that Wednesday or Thursday, she looked at her counselor and she said, "Man, I'm really gonna miss you guys for the second week." And her counselor was like, "I'm perplexed. What do you mean you're going to miss us for the second week? If we have a camper that needs to leave early, we always have that in their file, and the counselor would know that ahead of time." And so she asked her, are you leaving? And she explained, yes, I am. My mom said that if I don't like it, if I'm feeling homesick, I can come home after the first week. Oh man, well, that's when we realized there was no chance that she was going to stay for that second week. And so I tell that story to ask you guys to partner with us. Sometimes, especially if your camper in the days before are demonstrating some significant worry or anxiousness about leaving home, it can feel like a solution to promise that you'll come and pick them up if it's too hard. Now, we know that's always a possibility. That is we will always be demonstrating care for your kiddo. And if it's too much, we'll meet them in that. So we already know that that's a possibility. But when you tell your camper, "Hey, I'll come pick you up," what that tells them is you're not actually sure that they can do it. And that puts a benchmark in their mind that they're not trying to get over their homesickness. they get to quit out on it halfway through. And so what we encourage is, instead of promising that you'll come and pick them up, what we encourage is something like, when you feel homesick or when you feel like you miss us, please tell your counselor. They will take such great care of you, and feel free to write me a letter home. I know you can do this. You're going to have a great time. So that's my encouragement. I know we're running a little bit late, so I want to head to Q&A if you guys have any questions, but that's what we have for you. Those are some of the ways that you can sense if your child is ready, and we will be there every step of the way to support your kiddo through.
Thank you. That was great. That was great. Hey, Savannah, do we have some questions that came through our Q&A?
Yes, I have a couple questions. Thank you so much, by the way. That was such great info. I love listening to all the facts and stuff, even though I know it pretty well. So it's fun to hear it again. But the first question, I'm kind of going to add a little bit, because I know I get this question a lot just from calls I get from parents. But one of our parents asked, how do I request a friend for my camper? I'm going to add another part to it. If my camper doesn't have a friend to request, how do I know they're going to be set up well?
That's great.
That's great. You want to go?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll jump
Tag
in.
team.
Yeah. So how do you request? I'll start off with that first one. Great question. That is going to be in your forms, and we will have I think in 2 mornings on the porch, we will kind of talk through some of the importance of forms. But there's a cabin mate request form. And so you'll go ahead and request your, top 2 choices, and we'll take that all into consideration as we form those little family groups. So that's how you request. And again, we'll talk more about that, but it's in your forms, and that will be in your parent login when they go live in just a few weeks, and you'll get email set up for all that. Now, the question about making friends, this is a little bit, there's lots of different ways to answer this question. But one of the ways that we begin by setting them up for success is the way that we form cabins. And so we have lots of campers who come with a friend, but then we have lots of campers, I think Sara said 25%, that don't come with a friend. And so as we're forming together cabins, we take into consideration the ones that that don't have any friends that they're coming in with. And we always pair them with at least one other person who isn't coming with a friend. And so that way they're set up for success at the very beginning, so that they can be ready to make friends. And we form them based off of shared hobbies, interests, age, all of that. And so we love being able to set them up for success and being able to make friends right off the bat by really forming those cabin groups with a lot of intention.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, another 2-parter for you. How will I know that my camper is doing well, or if she's having a hard time? And if she's having, or if they're having a hard time, how do we get in contact? How does that partnership work if she really does want to come home?
That's a great question. We do want parents to feel really connected to what's happening at camp, but we're a tech-free camp. So campers aren't going to be texting home all the time. They can't email you or Snapchat you or whatever they do. Campers are welcome to snail mail, and you're welcome to send pre-addressed stamped envelopes if you want. We do ask all campers to do, it's kind of a silly form letter halfway through our 2-week session, because a lot of kids don't write, and we want parents to have at least one, if possible, written item home. So campers can write you. We do post photos, as we've mentioned often, daily throughout the day. And while we might not get all 130 campers in every day, our goal is at least every other day you'll see your child's cabin, and your child in particular doing activities, and you can really get the vibe of the day at camp. I very much can tell when parents are looking at the faces of their kids in these pictures, and when you catch that natural smile, or you see their hand leaning on a cabin mate, you can, or them laughing really, really hard, oh, they're feeling at home. Sometimes they're looking away and it's a candid, please don't panic. They just were looking at a squirrel over there. And, but we do get calls from time to time from a parent who sees a candid shot and might be concerned because it wasn't a direct smile to the camera. We're really into candid. So just know they might have been contemplating something or reaching for something or distracted by something. Parents, you are super welcome to snail mail or email every day. We have mail delivery after lunch on a daily basis. Oh, except for Sundays, because there's no mail that arrives on Sundays. But if you get a letter from your child that says they are sad, or if you see a photo that's concerning, or if it's been a whole week and you haven't heard anything, you are always welcome to call our office. There's every chance in the world that Savannah will be the one who answers it, or her wonderful assistant. And we want you to know how your kiddos are doing. So call and we'll do a little recon. We don't let the campers know that we are doing a recon. We don't want them to feel watched or that they did anything wrong, but we'll check in with them. We'll check in with their counselor, and we'll, by the end of the day, try to report back to you on how they are. Do remember, if you get a letter from the very first day of camp, there often is, I'm a little worried, or I haven't made a friend yet. That's because they did just get off the bus, or they just had one night's sleep. And so by the time often that you've received that letter, they've already really settled in and they're doing well. But we never mind your calls, and we want to support parents and know, again, you are not alone. The office is there to connect well with you.
Awesome. Sara or Jessica, would you mind touching on the piece if it comes to a point where the child does need to go home? Can you just kind of break that down? Because that was one of the specific questions.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I'll go ahead and do that. It happens super rarely, like very, very rarely. But if, for example, with the help of parents and encouragement of parents, a child, say, is too anxious to do the full 2 weeks, or perhaps there might be a developmental delay that makes the experience more challenging. Or sometimes there's even an issue at home, maybe a family emergency, and that child might need to head home early to be with family for a reason. We're going to call you. And we'll connect. And again, once we've exhausted all of our efforts to help a camper with your help a camper be successful, we'll call you and we'll decide together. Hey, we do think, while he's made it 9 days, these last few days are rough. Or, I think next year might be a better year for him as he practices some get along skills or those kinds of things. And we'll decide together and then invite you to come to camp and pick up the child. If by chance that's a camper that has flown in, we'll get them down to the airport and of course get them home. But it really is a team effort. It's a partnership, us with parents, with the counselor, with the camper. My goodness, we'll go 5 years and no one will go home early. We might have a summer when we have 1, maybe 2 go home, but it really is rare, because our experiences when we work together, that child is ready enough and successful. And if you say, oh, but at home he can't follow all my instructions, we'll give instructions one instruction at a time. Okay, we're all going to put our shoes on now. Okay, ready? All right, let's go. We're all going to put on our sunscreen now. Let's make sure everybody gets behind the ears. We really will pace each camper's experience at that age appropriate level. So the likelihood is your kiddo is going to be just fine.
Awesome. All right. One more question. If you or if a parent wants to help prepare the camper for their experience when it comes to dietary restrictions or medications, what are some steps that can help create independence and responsibility for those two parts of their daily meals and daily medications?
Great question. You want that one?
Sure. You can jump in
Okay.
at any point. Well, what I hear in that question is two parts. One, how do you help them at camp? And two, how can you help prepare them at home? And so what I would say for the home part is some of the tools that Sara actually mentioned, which is going over it with them, at the very beginning before they even leave. Practice. Hey, hey buddy, what medication do you usually take this morning? And you can kind of guide them into helping them remember, to the point where maybe they even wake up and they can remember themselves. Oh yes, I'm supposed to be taking medication. Now at camp, we have lots of different tools to help them. It is not just based on your 8-year-old's ability to remember for themselves. We have you covered. Their counselor knows. We have a wonderful health center staff that knows, what medication they should be taking. They will seek them out if they don't come to them. So your kid will receive their medication. But for that counselor who, might have a few kiddos that have kids that have medications, it will be really helpful if your kid is already aware of what they're supposed to be doing. And that's true for dietary restrictions as well. And so practice with your kid before they come. Have conversations. Maybe even ask them, how will you remember in the morning? Maybe they wear a certain bracelet that when they wake up, they remember that's the bracelet that reminds them to go for their morning meds or whatnot. So there are lots of different tricks and tools to help them develop, but bring them into that conversation and let them, brainstorm how they're going to remember, the different things that help them succeed at camp. And then, like I said, we have lots of wonderful staff that will continue to help them remember and stay on top of the things that they need.
Yeah. Our campers all will be checking in all their medicines, their vitamins, their supplements. They check them all in to the health center. We call the health center Club Med because it's way more fun to go to the Club Med than it is to go to the infirmary. Our nurses are at every meal passing out medications and vitamins. And so they know exactly who should be taking what. And they'll seek the child out if the child hasn't come to them. In your forms, in your health history forms, you'll be advising us of what they're taking, if they have a vitamin or a medication, as well as their dietary needs. And so the counselor will have studied that, and we'll have powwowed already with one of our camp nurses. And we'll be fully aware. I have a child who is dairy free. So I have my eye on that. And since it's a counselor with maximum 7 kids, that's enough for that counselor and other additional staff to know that that child needs to make sure they get the dairy free entree as opposed to the regular lasagna. So we really are on that. When we have questions about it, we call you and say, it seems to be going well, or your son mentioned there often is a second vitamin he takes. Oh, we decided not to send that this year for these 2 weeks. Oh, great to know. Just want to make sure we're on it. If they need to have an EpiPen with them, and it says it on the form, but it didn't arrive, we'll call you. Was there an EpiPen that was supposed to come? Oh, it's somewhere in his duffel bag. Great. We're going to go get it now. So we're a small enough camp that we can personalize some of those things. It's not all on that child to remember everything. We'll be there for them, but it is pretty fun when they remember on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, those are all the questions. We also want to invite anyone who wants to hang back a little bit because we are concluded with our time. But if you have any questions, we will be here for another 5 minutes or so. So thank you again for joining us for this month's Morning on the Porch.
Yes, and our next Morning on the Porch will be in approximately a month in March, and we'll be talking about the kind of skills that campers learn through the wide variety of activities that they'll be doing at camp. The actual physical skills, but also those intangible internal life skills that spark up when they try new things and when they try again. So I hope you'll join us then. Thank you so much for being with us.
Bye.